And you're live.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Roll Call. Want to thank everyone for
You're live.
showing up again.
All right, hey everybody.
Hopefully, it's going to be interesting and entertainment. We're going to try to make it that way. So, one of the things that we've run into, again, I've only been doing this for about 2 years. Actually, yeah, 2 years this summer. Jason's been fighting this. Him and his partner Pete been fighting this for over 10 years. One of the highly debated topics when you talk about protecting the kids in schools is arming teachers and putting armed civilians inside of schools. So I used to be, when I first come on board, I'm not going to lie, I used to be behind this idea. Uh, but then when I started thinking about it and then talking it over with Jason and his business partner Pete, and having been in law enforcement, learning what I learned when I was there, a lot of things come to mind that I had never really thought about. And I think as someone on the outside looking in, you don't think about it, and we always get the questions, well, why don't we do this and why don't we do that in the aspect of arming teachers, arming civilians, putting retired law enforcement officers in schools, or military vets, Navy SEALs, special operators. We've heard it all. So again, I used to be behind this, but then when we started digging into it, started looking at one of the things is legal aspects of it. It's not a good idea. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with it. So last week, I put together this PowerPoint presentation, and I spent a lot of time on it. It's nothing real extravagant or anything like that, but hopefully it'll help some of y'all that have this idea that it's still a good idea. Maybe it'll at least get your wheels turning and you start thinking about it. Uh, I just want to make sure, Joker, this is the presentation's up, correct? The PowerPoint. I guess it is. Okay. So why is this so controversial? So let's talk about it. For the last 30 years, we've constantly and consistently heard the back and forth arguments and debates regarding the Second Amendment. What its infringements on that right and what is not an infringement. So a lot of states have weapon on campus laws that prohibit that unless you're active law enforcement. So with 3D response, we actually take the gun debate out of it. But as far as the arming teachers and arming civilians, that's what we're going to dive into because I think that's one of the heavy arguments that we hear almost daily. So whether you're pro gun or anti gun, or even in the middle, you're on the fence, you don't know which way to go, you already know that debate's still going on today. So this is some of the facts. This is obviously not all of them, but as of today, and I've done some research as of last week, so these are true stats. As of today, there are roughly 33 states in the U.S. that prohibit the possession of a firearm on educational property by anyone other than an active law enforcement officer. Uh, Even with me being retired, and I'm not speaking for every state, but in the state of North Carolina, even me being retired, uh, you cannot carry a firearm on educational property. Private schools are a little bit different. Churches are definitely different. But as far as public schools are concerned, North Carolina general statute is unless you're an active law enforcement officer, you cannot carry a firearm on educational property. And that even means if you have it in your car and you're dropping off your kid at the car rider line, at the drop off line, if it's seen and the teacher sees it or the school staff sees it and they want to make an issue out of it, they can. About a month ago, there was a guy in an adjoining county. He was dropping off his kid one morning, and when the teacher opened the passenger door to let the kid out, she saw he had a gun on his side. Called the SRO. The SRO come over, detained him, and ended up arresting him. So not only was he arrested and booked, had to pay a bond, and one of the penalties, if you're convicted of this, that the judge can put out is you can actually lose your concealed carry permit if you have one. Now, this guy was open carry, so I don't know if that's going to be an issue. But if he does have a concealed carry permit, he could potentially lose that. A lot of people say, "Well, it's in my personal vehicle. That's my private property." She opened the door, saw it, but at the end of the day, the gun's on educational property. So some insurance companies that currently hold policies for public school districts have said that they will actually cancel the policy for the school district if a armed teacher, armed staff member, or anything like that occurs, that they'll just cancel the policy because of the liability. Another question, and Jason has brought this up before, is has anybody asked the teachers? It seems like the people that are very pro-arming teachers, pro-arming civilian, they are not teachers themselves. I know I've asked teachers that I know, just out of curiosity, if you were given the opportunity, would you carry a firearm? And I have not run across one, and I've probably asked about 7 or 8 of them. I've not run across one that said yes, that they feel comfortable doing that. And they are most of them are gun owners, but they don't want to do it. They don't want the liability. They don't want the stress that comes with it. I was actually talking to a friend of mine that's retired from a local agency here where I'm at. He's the security guy for a church school. And some of the teachers had approached him and said, "Hey, this is something that we are interested in. What are the fallbacks on this?" So he called a meeting. He told me there was like 5 or 6 of them. So he called a meeting and he was going over the what you can and can't do. And one of the things that he pointed out was, as a armed teacher, if things go south or more south than what they're already going in an active shooter incident, is they can actually lose everything that they've ever worked for. They can be sued. They can lose their job. They can lose their house. They can lose everything that they have just because they made an innocent mistake. So when this was brought to their attention, they immediately said, "Nope, that's it. We're out. We don't want to do this. Leave it to the professionals." So even when you ask teachers if they want to do it, and those that have come forward and said, "Yeah, we want to do this," even when you start to get into it and explain to them these are the possibilities, they back out. They don't want nothing to do with it, and rightfully so. Many have changed their mind. Like I said, many have changed their mind when they learn that if things go wrong, that they can lose everything that they've ever had and worked for. Their life is over for that part of it. And one of the things that, I'm not trying to jump ahead, but one of the other things that stick out in my head, especially with high school students today, there's some big kids out there today. I was talking to a school resource officer about a year ago that was trying to break up a fight between 2 boys at a high school near me, and one of them turned on him, and he told me, he said, "John, I fought this kid. I think he was in like the 9th grade." He said, "I fought this kid for like 9 or 10 minutes, and I was calling for help." And this is a good sized deputy. He was calling for help, and he told me, he said, "I'm not gonna lie, he was getting ready to whip my ass." Because people say, "Well, spray them with OC or tase them." Well, their hands are tied here in North Carolina, or at least in Forsyth County. Their hands are tied on what officers can and can't do. And then when they do it with the less lethal, then they hear from the parents, and there's a big uproar and big protest and all this and that. So it's like they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. Well, my point of it is teachers can be overtaken by a student or even a group of students. We've got gangs in schools. So, a couple of those kids know that a teacher's carrying a firearm or has access to a firearm in a room. It's going to be nothing for them to overtake, that teacher, administrator, and the gun become in the wrong hands. And there you get into the gun retention part of it. Are we going to teach them gun retention? The other part of it is hesitation will get you killed. Being in law enforcement, I've only been involved in one shooting. The deputy shows up on a domestic, and he had not been released long from FTO phase, and he froze. and he had AK rounds flying by him. Just luckily he didn't get hit. So I pull up and start returning fire. I've been on for 4 or 5 years, but he's been on the street maybe 3 or 4 months by himself. Hesitation almost got him killed. So if you take a teacher or a school administrator and put a gun in their hand, say they want to do it, are they going to be able to pull the trigger? Are they going to hesitate? So one of the interesting things that I found, and this was copied from one of the websites that I got my research from, is the cost of hesitation. Loss of escape routes. The attackers typically move quickly. Delaying your exit can mean walking directly into the line of fire. The denial or delay. People hear the gunshots. We heard that in the Uvalde shooting. Some of the teachers thought that there was some construction going on outside of the school when in fact it was gunshots. The tactical advantage allows the shooter to cover more ground. If the teacher's hesitating and the shooter's coming at them, they can quickly get overtaken there. It's just not a good idea. The other big thing is are you going to give them qualified immunity? We've heard that the question is, what is qualified immunity? So I put the actual definition there. So armed teachers and civilians do not have qualified immunity, and at the current time, they're not going to have qualified immunity. But what qualified immunity is the legal doctrine that shields the government officials, including police officers, from personal and civil liability unless they violate the clearly established constitutional statutory rights. They don't have it. So then are you going to give them less lethal? And what that means is OC spray or tasers. Are you going to teach them how to use it? There again, you can have that. They can have that taken away from them and used on them. It's not a good combination. We understand that it sounds good, but when you start digging into it, it's not. Does the teacher need to be leaving? This is one of my things. Does the teacher need to be leaving their students unattended? No, absolutely not. Especially, the younger kids. You don't want a teacher leaving the room. Anything can happen. Then you've got unattended kids that, God knows are doing what. They're not going to stay, where they need to stay and do what they need to do. That supervision still needs to be in there. Are you going to teach them first aid? Because by law, you have to teach them first aid if you end up shooting somebody. And again, back to the hesitation part, are they going to be able to pull the trigger? I think Jason found a video that actually shows what can happen. I think Joker may have that. You got that up?
Have what? What again?
The video that Jason sent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my bad.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Ready? Here we go.
New details. The 17-year-old accused of this violent attack on a teacher's aide at a high school in Flagler County pleaded not guilty to battery charges. Lawyers for the teen say he's not mentally competent to stand trial. They're now asking to have him examined by experts. Surveillance video you see here from inside Matanzas High School shows the attack. You can see that 6'6" student throw the aide to the ground, knocking her unconscious. He then punches and kicks her several times.
Yeah, so that's one of the things out of many that can go wrong. Uh, so yeah, it's so moving on with that. So is there going to be new legislation coming up to give teachers and armed civilians in schools qualified immunity? It's just going to be a lot of red tape. Uh, the less lethal or gun retention, all of that stuff. Are you going to give them that? One of the things that I thought of as well, if you have an armed civilian or teacher, whatever you want to call it, is actually engaged in confronting an active shooter, and a law enforcement officer walks through the door and sees anybody with a firearm in their hand and shooting, uh, they don't know who that person is. So what are the chances of the good guy getting shot or good female getting shot, and it be a teacher or whoever? There's, in my opinion, there's a pretty good chance that they're probably going to get shot. Uh, and then, there's going to be a lot of fallout from that. So we've heard the argument, well, put them in orange vest or make them wear a uniform or wear something that can identify them. Well, that's somewhat of a good idea, but what happens when the bad guy takes out the armed civilian or teacher and takes the vest or takes the shirt or whatever? Then you've got a bad person wearing a good person's shirt or vest or whatever. It's just not a good idea. Um, then we go back to the 33 states that prohibit a firearm from being on educational property. You're going to have to go back and redo all of that. It's not a good idea. So end the gun debate altogether. In our opinion, put 3D response in the schools and let the teachers do what the teachers need to do, what they're trained to do. Don't make it more complicated than it already is. Don't add more responsibility and add liability to what they're already under. They're already being criticized for not doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing. Uh, they can't, there's no such thing as corporal punishment anymore. Like you saw that teacher's aide there, and then you saw other teachers or administration just look while he was doing it. Everybody's scared to go hands on with somebody. So, install 3D response and give the students and the teachers the tools that they need. That's going to get law enforcement there quicker, and let law enforcement do what they're trained to do. Again, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but Uvalde sticks in my head and will always stick in my head when you watch that trial that happened and see some of the video that they showed in court. And I personally am a strong believer, and I'm not the only one that believes that if 3D response had been there, by the time he walked through the front doors, if he had been able to walk through the front doors, he would have walked into a ghost town, and he would not, absolutely not, been able to walk into these classrooms and be doing what he done to these kids and teachers. They, like one of the teachers said, they were a sitting duck. They had no cover. They had no concealment. Uh, they were literally were sitting ducks.
So the reason this topic I think is important to cover, and thanks John for going into that. For the last 10 years, I've confronted two arguments. One is arm everybody, and the other one is get rid of the guns. And there's nothing in the middle. Let's throw a third one in there, mental health. There's another topic that keeps coming up. And this has literally been a 30-year debate. And because we sit here so divided, nothing's getting done and nothing's getting accomplished. So right now, I truly put all the blame on lawmakers and educational leaders on their inability to make a decision. And these topics are the ones that are hindering progress. So a lot of people too come in and they'll say, well, just train the teachers. I probably have over 2,000 hours of training under my belt in shoot, don't shoot, use of force scenarios, plus experience on top of that. it's really difficult to take an educator and put them through the rigorous amount of training that needs to be done, because it's not just shooting at a paper target and getting a good score on qualifying, because that moment you're not even looking at your sights. The only thing a range is going to help you do is probably get a better stance and grip, and but you're not. It's totally different for a live shooting, and you throw stress on top of that. And when I was a school cop, there were a lot of kids in that school, and I'm not small, but I'm not huge, and there was a lot of kids that were bigger than me, and it would have been a fight. And that's why not only did I carry a gun, but I also carried less lethal on me as well, because not every situation is strictly lethal. You know, you can't just walk around with a gun and have no other alternative to handle a situation. So these are the three topics that have been brought up over and over again that is killing, I think, progress for common sense response. And we're trying to educate people. Before you just say armed teachers, you really need to dive into it. You really need to look at all the facts. It's kind of like throwing an open slate at mental health and say it's the mental health problem. Well, you might be true there, but it's more than that. This whole topic is a very complex act, and it's also a complex response. And there's no one-trick pony that's going to fix this. And that's where we're lacking. This has to be looked at holistically and with some common sense and some tactics. And right now, we didn't start this company to talk about guns, and we didn't start this company to talk about mental health. We started it to provide resources for the teachers, the kids, and the cops to keep their children safe. And these conversations are the ones that, in my opinion, is blocking progress both in the political world and the educational world for growth. And right now I'm seeing everybody cares about artificial intelligence and metal detectors and all this real cool alert technology systems, which again, it's a one-trick pony that may or may not work, and we're still not providing any tools for the stakeholders. So I hope this, before people just come out and say arm the teachers and then walk away from it, let's think about it a little bit. And I think that's what John is trying to portray. Like, let's really look into this. Is it worth it or not? Because that teacher that got knocked over in the hallway, she was knocked out. If she had a gun, now we got a real bad problem. And that's the stuff that I think we think of, because every time I'd go to a call, domestic or whatnot, there was always one gun there. It was mine. And I cannot lose that gun because I'm dead. That's a really heavy weight to weigh on you when you're in a fist fight or in your physical confrontation, that you have to protect your weapon. If you have any comments to that, John.
Well, absolutely. And, when I run across this right here, this up now about active shooter drills, anybody that's followed Jason from the get-go and heard how this originally got started, how 3D originally got started, he tells a story about, his son coming to him asking what he was doing. He said, well, I've got to teach your teachers run, hide, fight. Well, now we're starting to see data that's coming out saying run, hide, fight is outdated. And this is quotes right here. I didn't add anything to it. I didn't take anything out. This is research that I've done that's out there. It's public information. But run, hide, fight is now outdated and doesn't work. And it's not funny because it's not a funny subject or a topic, but it is a little bit chuckling that now they're coming out saying that, well, it doesn't work. And Jason has harped on this. It's like, your building does not fit this. And the professionals are coming out now saying, well, we're asking our teachers to make life-saving decisions where one wrong move can cost the lives of many. Why wasn't this being thought of, Jason, 10, 12 years ago?
Yeah, about that. I stopped.
Yeah.
I refused to teach it in 2014.
And see, now they're saying the model faces heavy criticism because it ignores the natural human freeze response. There we are back with the hesitation part of arming teachers.
Well, that was the biggest. I would sit down with teachers after we do a drill, and I'd just ask, "What'd you think?" Their biggest anxiety with run, hide, fight is that moment in time where they have to make a decision: do I stay or do I go? It's a multiple choice moment under severe stress, and that's what causes them the most anxiety. You don't see that with a fire suppression system. It's point A to point B. With run, hide, fight, you're putting the onus on the teachers to make the right decision. And the problem is when you have that much stress dumped on you with that little information, there's a good chance you may decide wrong. And now you're no longer protecting your kids. So since 2014, that story John said that was the moment where I said, I'm done teaching this. I just don't, it's a horrible concept. It causes anxiety for the teachers and the building doesn't support it. There's just an easier way.
Well, and one of the articles that I also read is that some of the students are coming home from school that day with anxiety. And one article that I read, a grandmother asked her granddaughter, it's like, what's wrong? What happened? And she said, well, we had to do an active shooter drill. And the grandmother said, I mean, her granddaughter was just stressed out big time. Like she was crying or had been crying. And just the drill itself put stress on the students. It was really some good information that I found on Run, Hide, Fight. And I was actually surprised to see that it was out there publicly.
John, when we were doing the drills with teachers, we would use a 12 gauge blank, and our mindset at the time was so the teachers could recognize what a shot would sound like in their school. The reaction to that was we literally had counselors coming in because the next day the teachers were so shaken that it messed up the teachers too. And I still don't know if it's a good or bad idea with the kids. Absolutely not. But that's another thing with our system is it takes all that out of it. All the kids see is a button being pushed and a door being pulled out. So you take the anxiety out of it. It's very relaxed. It's 2 steps and drill's over. But that run, hide, fight for the teachers, again, now put them in a position where that much stress and they can't even lock their door with a key because they're shaking so bad. A lot of those teachers, they just froze. A lot of them were crying afterwards, and it was an eye-opener for them on what this actually really would be like. And I think it's, I feel bad for the teachers. They're being asked to do a job they didn't sign up to do.
Well, and in one of the articles that I read, and I don't know if this prompted this actual debate or not, and I don't know if it was because of what happened with the Uvalde issue or the Uvalde incident, but with a teacher organization that's nationally known across the United States, the teachers started asking this questions like, why is this responsibility being put on us? And, what happens if we make a wrong decision and we tell students to run and they don't make it? Then during the investigation, it's going to come out, and then the teachers are going to be in the spotlight. Then it opens up lawsuits there from parents. Well, teacher so and so told my kid to run, and my kid's dead because my kid ran. And or is the administration going to be there backing the teachers? I mean, we saw that, how that went with law enforcement like several years ago. I mean, some of the administrations wasn't backing their officers. So I think some of the teachers have finally realized, again, while it sounded good at the time, now they're probably, or I'm going to assume, what happens when you assume, but I'm going to assume they finally figured out that if they make the wrong choice, it can really go bad. And then who's going to be held, holding the bag there?
With that too, the schools we're installed in, I've gone back and reviewed their policy, bringing up the admin supporting you, and their policies are written very specific on protocol for response. The problem with that is it's so easy to fall outside that policy language in the moment of action. The policy will come into play after if you follow policy or not. If you look at a law enforcement policy book, it's all based upon a reasonable person. It's gray. It's wide open because a person has 7 different ways to skin a cat, so to speak. But when you write these so specific in educational settings, you're really putting the teachers out there on a limb that they're going to break policy, and now the admin will not protect them because they did not follow policy. Well, their policy was written wrong. That's another issue with this whole topic.
Yeah.
Now throw
And
guns on them. What's that policy going to look like?
well, yeah, right, exactly. And like I said early on, I used to be behind this, and obviously, other people are still are, but it's like this, the one I've got, the merging alternatives, and I kind of had to laugh when I read this because I mean, it sounds like somebody's actually listened to some of your podcasts and your interviews. They're saying shift to the prevention part, and again, I didn't add anything, I didn't take anything away. This is quotes. Many experts and agencies now argue that spending resources on early threat detection, mental health support, and facility hardening is more effective than relying on a reactive three-word survival slogan: uh, run, hide, fight. So again, they're now coming to realization that run, hide, fight is it's not the best thing, uh, clearly, to be relied on. Uh,
Even prevention, John, I just want to touch base on it because you and I had a conversation yesterday, and back when we first started, the craze was mental health, and there was millions upon millions of dollars state to state to be pumped into mental health and threat assessments. I know for a fact there's a lot of position in the schools where they have a threat assessment person who's taken a few classes, but to justify their job, they have to show that the threat assessments are needed. So in one district here, there was something like 3/4 of the school in Numbers had a threat assessment done in the last 3 years, and they were doing threat assessments on Tommy and Jimmy getting in a fight over a girl. It had nothing to do with this is a threat to the school. It's just kids being kids. Well, in that process, you got to kind of question: is the goal to uphold a program financially, or is the goal to actually do what's right when it's needed? Because what I'm seeing, it's being overused for the wrong reasons to justify a position. And quite frankly, every single shooting that we've seen across this nation, all these facts come out afterwards that law enforcement knew about him and blah, blah, blah. One thing that people don't understand with that is those facts come out afterwards because most crimes are not premeditated, or the criminal code is not premeditated. The criminal code is based upon an action somebody did. So, like a restraining order, that's supposed to be kind of preventative, but law enforcement can't do anything until the restraining order is violated. So, it takes an act for the arrest, and it takes the act to cause an investigation. So, the concept there between law enforcement and prevention, they don't smoothly go hand in hand with each other. And there's a lot of shootings that just slip through the cracks that nobody ever picked up on. And then there's a lot of shootings where the student doesn't even go to the school, where they don't even know the student exists. So how do you do a threat assessment on somebody that you don't even know is there? And their definition of school safety is artificial intelligence and threat assessments. Well, that's pretty easy to overcome. So I think everybody's just thinking too much into this, and it's so simple. It's the 3 C's, and you'll 100% you'll minimize loss of life. All this other stuff, in my opinion, is just fluff.
no, I agree. And that was my second to the last slide. At the end of the day, don't put more responsibility on the teachers and the school staff. Leave them alone with what they've already got on their shoulders, which is enough. Uh, if it happens, let them do what they're trained to do. And if you've got 3D response in there, stay in your room, push the button, and pull out a few slides, and you're protected. You've got the cover, concealment, and communication, and force the shooter into a confrontation with law enforcement when they come through the door. That's what you want, and that's what we did not see with Uvalde. He was held up in a room, and it took them 77 minutes to get off their ass and do something. Uh, and we saw what happened there. So,
I just
and
I just
go
looked
ahead.
it up. This is to your side of the argument. According to the U.S. Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center, at least 91% of all perpetrators are either current or former students. I don't think any teacher would want to face that. I don't think they could.
Yeah, and I saw that too. but if you look at like, and I actually just got an alert. It was either today or yesterday, where there was a school shooting plot that got stopped in its tracks. But the guy was 20 or 21, and for some reason, it hadn't come out yet. I don't know that we'll even see it because most people don't even know about it. Uh, is he didn't even go to that school, so they're trying to figure out why this school. I just got through watching, or I'm still watching, the court trial with Colt Gray. He was the shooter in the Appalachia High School shooting. He has pled guilty, but they're still going over the evidence and whatnot. And he's idolizing Adam Lanza, uh, to the point where, he got the trench coat, he got the hat, like he's mimicking this, Adam Lanza. And, in one of his texts that was put out into evidence was somebody was asking him, it's like, well, what are you going to do? And he said, well, I'll probably go shoot up an elementary school, probably the closest one to me. He didn't even go to that school. Uh, so, and then you've got, I think, what the shooting in Tennessee, she, whatever you want to call it, didn't even go to the school. A lot of them have not even gone to that school. So it's, the most recent ones, I think, didn't even go to the school. I think Columbine, they did. Uh,
I think the best way to sum it up is you cannot predict when, where, who. You just can't
right.
predict it. I sum it up that there's evil in this world. There's people that will do evil things, and unfortunately, the good people are in a reactionary mode because you can't predict it. I mean, unless you live in the Minority Report where we get the balls that come out of the chute and say a homicide is going to occur, typically the good guys are responding to something. They're responding to an act that I would say that in the number of threats I investigated, probably over 60, we did intervene. And I always say that you'll certainly know if you never did the right thing, but you will definitely know if you didn't do the right thing. So
Right.
it's there's everybody wants a stat and a pattern on something, and after all that I've looked into this, there just is no stat or pattern that proves anybody is going to do this tomorrow. And we backtrack, like, why did this happen, and try to use that in the future, but it just changes all the time. And that's why we're stuck in, we see a shooting, and because the suspect came through the back door at Uvalde, well, now everybody needs single door entry because that's what happened in Uvalde. After Annunciation shooting, he shot through the glass, and this past summer, every Catholic school in Minnesota wanted ballistic glass until they found out how much it cost, and like, we keep trying to fix what just happened, and that's not the way to be successful because you can't predict what's next.
Well, one of the interesting things that I found with the Appalachia shooting was that he'd been planning that for 2 years and had been talking about it on different platforms like Discord and whatnot. But he literally planned it for 2 years. So he was I don't want to say very slow, but he was slow and methodical, and getting the stuff that he wanted to get to mimic that individual. I didn't mean to say his name, give him the glory, but like he planned it for 2 years, and he even made the comment to one of the people he was chatting with, is like how funny it is to be walking by these people that and when I finally do this, they're going to realize, hey, I saw him in a restaurant, or hey, I saw him coming out of the shoe store. And little did they know that they were looking at somebody that was going to go down in history for another school shooting. Yeah, so he planned it for 2 years before he actually ever done it. So yeah, you can't. There's no way to predict it.
Lisa Hudson brings up a very valid point, and when I was a school cop, I got to know the whole staff very well. And a lot of these teachers, they look at their students as their own kids, and they develop really good relationships with these kids, and they're mentors to them, and they teach them, and they provide, just life advice to them outside of education, and they become very attached to them. I agree with what Lisa just said there, that I think that would be really hard for a teacher to pull the trigger on one of their own.
Yeah.
It'd be hard for a cop. It'd be hard for me.
Well, and I'm not going to lie. I didn't pull the trigger, but I had sights on a 14-year-old one day, or one night really, and like it just, that shook me more than the actual shooting I was involved in. Because I was like, this is a kid. Do they know what they're doing? Do they not know what they're doing? It's a whole different ball game. I don't know if you've ever been in that kind of situation, but
I've had my gun. I couldn't even tell you how many times I've had my gun pointed at somebody. A lot.
well, I mean, like on a kid.
Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah, and I can't imagine a teacher having to make that decision. So, um, so I also want. I don't think Jason. Well, Jason's talked about it a couple of times, and I've kind of done this in this last slide in fun. So I actually ordered me another shirt, 3D shirt, and a certain individual that has joined us tonight kind of was hounding me a couple of weeks ago about a hat. So I finally got her a 3D hat. Not going to name any names. She knows who she is. So I thought I would also plug the website. So if you go to 3dresponse.com, over on the right hand side at the top, you choose apparel, and it will automatically bring in the 3D merchandise. The guy is super quick with shipping. If he messes up on order or shipping or something like that, he's like super awesome to work with, and he makes it right. But if not, if you just go to the shop, customizeit.com, and go to home and then pre-made, and then choose the 3D response system, you can find all the stuff that we got there. But I'm really impressed with the stuff he's putting out, Jason. I don't know if you talk to him or see him or whatnot, but I've been very happy with it.
You're like a walking commercial right now.
I am. And the only thing I don't have on is my hat. But I love this dry fit shirt. Anyway, that's all I've got on my PowerPoint.
Some new and upcoming stuff. We are moving forward with it's called 3D Response. What is it called, John? 3D Response Protective. I don't even know the name of the
services.
Protective Services. So I've recruited a whole bunch of former school resource officers and former cops that are retired now. And up here in Minnesota, these private schools don't have the opportunity to have a school resource officer. So I'm specifically looking for somebody who has a minimum of 15 years of law enforcement experience. I'll look at military folks too, but we want them now. We want them trained in the school resource officer roles, and then qualification suits, psych evals, the whole 9 yards, and provide these private schools with not just a conceal and carry, but provide these schools with the opportunity to have a kind of a real school resource program with a good gun that's got thousands of hours of training under their belt, and they know what they're doing. It's kind of unfair. I see these private schools and the local PDs and sheriff's departments, they just don't have the resources to put bodies in them. And these private schools and charter schools kind of get left and pushed off to the side. So we're kicking that off September. So that's something new coming up. And I will say, in my opinion, the best system you can have is a combination of the actual installed hardware of 3D Response and a well-trained, well-versed law enforcement or former law enforcement person in that school to counter it. Because even with that gun in the school, there could be 60 shots going off on the other side of campus and you would never know. But you still have a quicker response now, and you still give the kids the tools that are in that moment at that time. And that's the perfect solution.
And it's interesting you say that. In one of the chats that Colt Gray was going back and forth, he was talking about the timing when he chose the day that he was going to do the shooting. He said, I know that I'm going to have X amount of time because of the law enforcement response. They get there pretty quick, but I've still got time to do a lot of damage. And I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist of his text. So it's like, he had really done his research on police response and stuff like that. So it goes back to, you know,
Do you know
having
how long?
SROs to-
Do you know how long 60 seconds feel when there's bullets flying by?
yeah.
It's an eternity.
Well,
And how many shots can I get off in 60 seconds?
right. Well, and the interesting thing was too, and I'm not going to call the company name, but they had a system, an app based system, and there was a solid I think it was 2 minutes and 12 seconds from the time the shooting actually started to the time this app notification got activated and sent out the alert. Where with the first shots with 3D, within 60 seconds you got law enforcement on the way. There's just another example.
Joker, you got any questions on today's show at all? Any thoughts?
Nope. No.
Thank you. Thank you for engaging.
My job is to push buttons.
He's just producing.
I'm just trying to get him to interject a little bit.
Oh, I know.
I'm good.
Well, John, you got anything else?
No,
I can open up phone lines for 10 minutes if anybody wants to call.
that's
Yeah, I
fine.
think
That's
it's a
fine
good
with
topic. See if anybody.
Phone lines are open. 38. What is it again?
386
Talking about this is not knowing the name of his
386-227-7284. I had to sing it to myself just now. 386-227. Yeah, 386-227-7284. Phone lines open. Keep in mind that you can ask the question, but you got to hang up to get the answer because this is only a one-way
That's kind of
phone
like
call.
pulling over a drunk driver when you tell them to say the ABCs, but don't
Yeah, and
sing
they
it.
sing it.
They still sing it. A, B, C, D. No, don't sing it. A, F.
I had a guy get out of the car and I told him to stand with his feet together and not move. And I was giving him instructions for one-legged stand. And he just wet his pants. I go, did you just wet your pants? And I go, yeah, you're drunk. You're under arrest. I didn't need any field sobriety test. You just wet your pants.
But what if he wet his pants out of fear?
No, he was hammered.
Oh, boy.
Ashley
Yeah.
says she wants a hoodie.
You know what? I'll send
And
you
a
the link,
tumbler.
Ashley.
There
God
you go.
almighty.
I want a hoodie.
I'm still not going to call her name out. But somebody started this.
It's probably
Yeah,
Lisa.
I ain't pointing no elbows at
I
Lisa.
did.
I just nailed it, didn't I, John? Your response, I just
You
nailed it.
did.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Ah, there we go. 3D response. This is Joker. What's the question you have for the boys there?
I want to know how much success Jason and John have had with public schools. I mean, I know private are more likely to be open to it, but how much success are the public schools given? Because, it's all about who's in whose pocket and who's willing to give up the money to make this happen.
So your question is, what is the success rate?
Yes, with public schools.
All
So
right.
in Minnesota, we're in
Hang up.
17 private schools. The district that we got installed in, and the reason I think we did was because the superintendent was a former lieutenant colonel in the Army with multiple tours, and one of his jobs was setting up bases over there and securing them. And he walked through what we were doing, and he got it. And I think he understood it because of his military background. Now you bring an educator through, and they just don't see it that way. It's hard to educate them on what is needed to survive that moment. And then the other side to that is they are politically controlled in Minnesota heavily. For anything in Minnesota to move forward, there's got to be, and there's a bill that's coming back around this year to make it building code, much like the fire code, because I think people would take their chances on not putting fire suppression system in if it wasn't law. So at some point, the public schools, and all they have to do is ask for money from the citizens. It's a referendum or a levy. Did you do everything you could? Well, we went out to the public and they voted it down. And when they go out to the public, when you guys hear, we want $2 million for safety, well, ask them, what do you mean by safety? Please define that. What is that? Cameras? What are you talking about? And they never give out the answer on what safety is. So a lot of this falls on us, the people in our towns, only caring about something like this until after there's an incident. And unfortunately, that trend has been going on for 30 years. Something happens, everybody cares, and then it just goes away. And now in summertime, nobody talks about it. But I guarantee you, when school starts, the topic's going to come back up, and it's going to be the same wash, rinse, repeat narrative that's been going on for years.
Well, and to kind of piggyback on that, and I don't remember exactly how long ago it was, so I'll just say some years ago, here in my county, uh, because of some budget issues with the school district, they voted on doing away with some school resource officers. And so that was essentially going to leave, I think it was around 7 or 8 public schools without any kind of security. And, it comes up every year at budget time. Well, are we, how many school resource officers are we funding this year? Can we add any? Do we have to take away? Whatever the case may be, it's a yearly ongoing back and forth with probably thousands of school districts every year. So, the parents come out when it comes out on the news that they're looking at potentially doing this. Parents come out and it's like, well, what about the safety for my kid? What are they going to, y'all can't do this. Let's cut something else. So then you're cutting other vital resources just to pay for SROs. And that kind of got me thinking, it's like, I don't know how we would go about it, and not saying take that debate out of the spotlight when it does come around. But if that was to happen, at least they would have a system installed that at the end of the day, even if there's not a SRO there, or, you and I talked about this several times where you have roving SROs because they don't have enough. You may have an SRO at this high school today, but they not be at the middle school. But tomorrow they're at the middle school, but not at the high school. So if something was to happen, they don't have anything. There's no kind of protection. They don't have an SRO. They don't, all they've got is run, hide, fight, which we've clearly seen doesn't work and is now being debated. So why not fund 3D response, put it in there, and that way, if that does happen, you haven't lost everything. You still have a layer of security, probably even better layer of security than having 2 or 3, 4 SROs there, because they don't ever know when they're going to be there or when they're not. With 3D response, it's static. It's there. It's there when it's needed.
Well said. Well, Joker, I appreciate the time and everybody coming in. I hope you learned something. And I think, if anything, talk to your school boards, talk to your legislators that we need to define school safety, and it needs to be a priority, not just after an incident happens. We need to get in front of it, because it truly is about, we started this to protect our kids. And it pisses me off that this is a political topic. It should be the most bipartisan topic in the nation, but yet it's an argument for political agendas, and it's sad.
It really is. It really is. I like this comment right here. Gashner says, the feds blow the taxpayers' money on wars for another country rather than protect their children. That's true. It's true.
Very true. Oh, just in Minnesota, the amount of fraud. We could have put 3D and a school cop in every school in Minnesota for the amount of money that was stolen.
Yep. Hey, man, them Somalis, man, they need that money. They need our money. They need it.
Well, they encourage others to work so they can get paid.
That's right.
Oh, you got some ads to run?
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, everybody, again. Take it away, Joker.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, Bailey, fix. Oh, baby. Oh, Bailey, fix. Oh, Bailey, fix. Oh, baby. I want my Bailey fix. Oh, Bailey fix. Bailey fix. Static in the wire, power in the vein, plugging in the jack just to numb the brain. 010, yeah.
Look around you. The world isn't as quiet as they want you to believe. In the dead of night, the shadows stretch, the frequencies warp, and the truly bizarre leaks into reality. You've seen things you can't explain. You've heard the whispers in the woods, witnessed the lights dancing in the upper atmosphere, and felt your hair stand up when you thought you were completely alone. Stop keeping it to yourself. Welcome to the Electric Circus. Your hosts, the Joker and Drax, are unlocking the phone lines and pulling back the curtain on the absolute unknown. This isn't a lecture. This is your platform. We want the raw, unfiltered truth. I don't think it's human. It's standing right outside my window. From skinwalker encounters to shadow figures to UFO cover-ups and cryptids stalking the tree lines. If it's odd, unexplainable, or downright terrifying, we're asking for you to call us live. No judgment, just the truth. The studio line will be wide open. The Joker's wild, so smile and dial! Punch the numbers and save them in your phone. Call 386-227-7284. That is 386-227-7284. His Majesty's madness gives all things strange and weird a home. Break the silence. Tell the Joker and Drax what you saw before the signal goes dead.
So you care about the safety of children and their lives, right? Well, listen to this. In 1958, 92 children and 3 teaching nuns died in a fire at Our Lady of the Angels School in Chicago. It led to a nationwide reform of fire safety in schools. Since then, not one child has died from a school fire. The same principle should be applied today. The issue of school shooters is still a problem.
Off a gunman shooting down at these students.
As, of course, we now learn about even more school shootings.
And our Brittany Ehrman found they aren't building schools like they used to for this very reason.
The definition of school safety in today's day and age previously had not yet been defined.
With Minnesota-based 3D response systems.
One of the pushbacks we hear is we don't want our schools to look like a prison. In reality, our system is completely hidden so you don't lose that learning environment feel.
3D Response Systems is a multi-layered design to get the police there faster and provide tools for the people inside to survive.
I went there as a skeptic. I'm not a skeptic any longer.
Why isn't this in every school?
Because the loss of even one child's life is one too many.
But let's get this word out and make sure that we support folks like Representative Hudson and a 3D response system, and wherever you are, whatever state you're in, go talk to your school board, go talk to your state representative. Tell them about this.
For information, or if you would just like to help, download our info sheet PDF located under the Systems
The
tab.
3D response systems design will provide safe spaces and a rapid response from first responders.
We should install in every school, public and private.
Kick in the door. Texas bitch, hear the crowd commit. Texas bitch, get off your ass. Texas bitch, or get hit. Texas bitch, raise your fist. Texas bitch, welcome to the pit. Texas bitch, get in the pit.
You sit bound by the laws of logic. Just beyond the horizon lies a frequency unseen, where the bizarre finds a voice. Footprints that vanish. Metallic craft gliding through skies. Whispers from shadow figures. Ghost steps in an empty corridor. Don't keep your secrets in the dark. Call in at Joker's Wild, Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern.